Hey fellas, long time no see. Yeah, I've been busy here at Primedmodelworks headquarters. Just doing some fun stuff. Did a figure from NY3D Creations. I found them on eBay. They've got a website too. I'll leave a link in the description. But every once in a while I like painting figures. It's just kind of fun. And I painted Mr. Harrison Ford from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He's got the little stones here, and one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. So I enjoyed doing it. Took me a couple days to build and paint it, and it was just kind of a fun little deal. I can set it up on my little next to my Millennium Falcon. Let's see. Oh, I built another Top Gun Tomcat. This is my third one, and it's probably the last one I'm gonna do because I bought a set of like 3 sets of decals from Fighter Town Decals, and so I went ahead and built this last one, and I probably won't do any more. So I am gonna put this one on eBay. Not that I always feel weird, talking about my selling stuff on YouTube because you guys probably aren't here for that, but I will be selling this on eBay, putting it up for $1 and see what it goes. But this isn't what I want to talk about in this video. What I want to talk about, I think I get the most questions when on my bases, on how I paint them. So I've had a lot of people want to know how I paint my bases, and specifically I think probably like the rivets and stuff. And I learned that from watching some airbrush artists and kind of developed, how to do this from them. And there's a bunch of different ways, and the rivets probably aren't exactly what they're supposed to be on a real plane. So if you're gonna make stupid comments like that, just don't make them. I know. But I just think it looks cool. So what I decided to do is put together a video on how I paint this base. So I go in depth, every step on how I paint this thing. So if you're interested in creating your own Top Gun base, then this video should go along nicely with the video series in which I built and painted the Top Gun Tomcat. So you put them together, then you can make this, and you won't have to try to buy this last one from me. So, all right, let's get on with the video. So if you haven't seen my Top Gun bases before, here's what I created this in Procreate on the iPad, and I'm going to stick with this look. I really like how it turned out. I'm going to change up the colors just a little bit though. So I went ahead and cut out the mask for the letters Top Gun on my Cricut. Now you could actually do this if you don't have a Cricut. You can actually do this by just drawing it out on this Tamiya sticker sheet and then cutting it out by hand. The shapes are pretty straightforward. Just use a ruler and you could get it done, or print off a picture from the internet and then just trace around it and cut it out. But it was just easier for me to do on my Cricut. So I've got the mask cut out, and I've already got the base stained. I've got the edges stained, and I put a clear coat along the part that's going to be the stained wood. And then I went ahead and put several layers of white spray can primer on top, and it's cured for about 4 or 5 days, and I've sanded it so I've got a decently grippy texture in which to paint. Now I've got a piece of tape on here because that's what I'm going to use to place to help me place the mask. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the Top Gun in kind of like a steel or a real light color, and then I'll mask that off, and then I'll come back and then I'll spray the red for the little wings here, and then I'll lay this down and cover the red up. And I'll come in here and do the blue as well for the little star down here. So basically I'm gonna paint the colors, lay down my mask, and then I'm gonna paint the rest of it. And so I'm gonna start off with some blue in my airbrush. Hold on one second. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got some sky blue, and I've got it thinned down a lot. And I'm just gonna lightly just go over this and break up that white and give it just a little bit of a blue tint. Now I don't want it real heavy, And I don't know how much of this you're gonna pick up on camera. And there's my dog. And I'm just kind of going at an angle. A little heavier in some areas, but I basically want a lot of that white to show through. And I think I'm out. A little bit more in there, but I think that'll work. Because I'm gonna have a gray background, so I don't want it too gray. Let's see here, let's get that squirted out. All right. Now I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'll throw down my mask so you can see how I'm gonna mask this off. This light right here so you can see. Okay, now I'm gonna take my mask and I'm gonna figure out where exactly I want it centered. Oh, my dog, I'm gonna beat her. I don't actually beat my dogs. My dogs are like my kids. Actually, sometimes I think I like my dogs better than my kids. So let's try to center this. And I'm not gonna measure centering it, but I did have this tape on here because I wanted it to line it up so it's even. Okay, that's pretty good. So I'm just using my transfer tape to lay down my mask. Now this transfer tape is going to be much stickier than the Tamiya sticker sheet. Okay. So now I can go ahead and lift up my tape because I no longer need this. Now you can definitely see the difference between the blue, the little bit of blue that I sprayed, and the white. So I did break it up. So now I'm going to mix up some red, and I'm going to spray red in between here, and then I'll spray right around here with some darker blue for the star. So let me get that mixed up. All right, so I've got some white in my airbrush, and now I'm going to hold it up because it'll help me a little bit better with trying to get the white highlights. Let's see. I think we'll just do one right along here. And one right along here, along where the star is. I don't know how far that's going to go down, but, and then maybe one right along the top. All right, I think that'll work. Okay, so we'll let that dry a minute. All right, you can see I've got it primed, and then I masked off some panel lines here with some thin strips of tape. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it just like I would an aircraft. So I'm going to do my black basing technique, and I'm going to paint the gray the same color that I use for the jet, which is light ghost gray. So I'm just going to take my white. I'm going to come in here and just do a modeling technique, just as if I was painting the plane. And your modeling can be however big you want it. Doesn't really matter. Just something to break up the monotony of the gray and give it that weathered type appearance. And you can go as far as you want. You know, I mean, this is Just be creative. Go as far as you want. If you want to weather it, make streaks and all kinds of crazy stuff, I think that would look cool as well. But we're just going to do just a normal gray paint job. So I'll get on with this, and then I'm going to come back with my light ghost gray, and I'm going to go over it, and then I'll show you how to do the rivets. All right, one thing that I've started doing is adding a little bit of a white highlight along my panel lines, and I'm going to have the light come from this direction, so from the bottom left towards the upper right. So what I've done is I've masked off those areas on the other side of the panel line. And I'm going to use some white, and I'm just going to lighten that area with the white. And it doesn't have to be too drastic. Just a little bit of a hint of white. And I probably didn't need these Post-it notes, I just didn't want any overspray. But I think I'll be fine. Okay. I think that should be enough. Like I said, I just want a hint of it. So let's rip this off. And then we'll rip off our panel line masking and see what we got. It's like a Christmas present, opening up my masking. What I like about painting is my favorite part is ripping up the masking and seeing what I've accomplished. Sometimes I'm happy with it, and sometimes I'm not so happy with it, just the way it goes. So let's rip this off. Okay. Rip this one off. All right, I'm gonna like the way this looks, I think. And with something like this, it's really kind of hard to tell until you rip everything off and see it all together. But I'm gonna be happy with that. I think that's gonna look pretty good. I've kind of got a rough texture. I hurried this one up and I wasn't real particular with the finish, and it really doesn't matter because I'm gonna do a matte finish and it's the base. So not like on my planes, I'm pretty particular about getting a smooth finish. On this one, it really doesn't matter. So next up, we'll pull out my template. Let me clean up my area here and we'll do the rivets. Now for the rivets, what I've done is I've cut a little template out here using real thin plastic card, and I just cut holes equal spaced right down the middle. So I'm going to use this as my template, and then I'll line it up right along the panel line here, and then I'm going to tape it down. And it comes, this is a point where you really do need 2 airbrushes. So I'm going to come along with a highly diluted black. Hopefully we can get this on camera. Okay, so I'm going to come along and I'm going to take my black. Man, this is difficult. And I'm going to come along here and I'm going to darken the bottom of my rivet here. And it's okay if it's not perfect. Doesn't really matter. We'll go ahead and go all the way around, but I'm going to add more dark along the bottom. Okay. Now I'm going to take my white and I'm going to come here and just at the top, I'm going to make some dots. Just like that. Now my masking is going to cover this part up, but I still want to paint it because some of the masking isn't going to, some of that rivet's going to show through beyond that masking. I'm just going to take it, make a dot. Go ahead and change this one up. Okay. So now I can lift this up. And I've got my rivets. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my black and I'm going to go right along the top here. And I'm going to make a little, like it's indented. So I'm just going to come in here and go right along the top edge and darken that area up. I'm going to make somewhat of a U shape around this. Ah, man, I made a mistake, but that's okay. That one can be a little bit darker, but just like so. And I can come in here and clean that up if I need to. Okay. And again, this isn't going to be seen because that's covered by the masking. And then on the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it with the white. And this white can be finicky because this has a tendency to tip dry. So I'm just going to come in here and just create that little white area where it looks like it's indented. Scrape off the paint from my tip. Come in here and do the same thing. Okay, just like that. Now I'm gonna clean this one up here on top. So what I'm gonna do, because I did make a mistake, is just gonna add a little bit more black, and then I'm gonna come in with this airbrush with my gray, and I'll clean that up just a little bit. So that's basically how it's done with my rivets. I'm gonna go ahead and rivet the rest of these along each side, and then we'll hit the next step. Alrighty, so I fixed my little mess up there, and they're not perfect, but that's okay. They're not supposed to be perfect. So now what I want to do is I want to add a drop shadow on the lettering. That's going to make the lettering pop, and it's going to make it look like it's floating on top of the rest of the artwork here. So I'm just going to take my black. And since I've got the light coming from this direction, I'm going to just go right along the edge of my lettering and create that drop shadow. So I'm just going along the edge of the tape. Kind of hard to see where I'm at. This is a little bit easier said than done to do it on camera like this. Okay, just like that. So I'm going to get along with painting the rest of this drop shadow, and then I will bring you back for the great unmasking. All right, fellas, it's time for the great unmasking. So let's see what it looks like. I don't know if I got this right or not. We'll find out. Pull this up. Okay. I really like this light blue white color up against the gray here. And the thing with this Tamiya sticker sheet is it's hard to get it up in one piece. It's pretty fragile. I will probably fast forward this part because this may take me a bit. All right, there we go. Not too bad. Peeling up my tape there, I obviously saw me scratch up some of the red paint. It's a little bit fragile, but there it is. I will put a flat clear coat on top of this and get it all sealed in, and then rip up my tape, put a felt bottom on it, and it is finished.